Sure. Here's your introduction. Imagine walking into a room, feeling the energy shift the moment a certain person enters. You know the type, the one who drains your energy, always criticizing, always spreading negativity. We've all encountered toxic people, whether in our personal lives, workplaces, or even among friends. They bring unnecessary drama, make us doubt ourselves, and create a toxic cloud that can be hard to escape. But here's the thing, smart minds don't let toxic people control their peace. They don't engage in pointless battles or allow negativity to dictate their emotions. Instead, they handle these situations with wisdom, patience, and a deep understanding of human nature. Think about the most successful, fulfilled people you know. Did they waste their time arguing with toxic individuals? Did they let negativity dictate their actions? No, they have mastered the art of dealing with toxic people without losing themselves in the process. They know when to engage, when to set boundaries, and when to walk away. They refuse to be victims of someone else's bitterness. But how exactly do they do it? What makes them different? How do they protect their peace while still standing their ground? That's what we're about to uncover. There's a powerful mindset shift that allows people to rise above toxicity without being dragged down. And once you understand it, you'll never look at toxic people the same way again. This isn't about fighting fire with fire. It's not about revenge or proving a point. It's about taking control of your own life, your energy, and your emotions. Because at the end of the day, toxic people only have power over you if you give it to them. And smart minds, they refuse to play that game. There's something important to understand about toxic people. They thrive on reactions. They feed on your frustration, your anger, and your attempts to prove them wrong. The more you engage, the more power you unknowingly give them. But here's the tricky part. They don't always come across as obvious villains. Sometimes they disguise themselves as friends, colleagues, or even mentors. They appear helpful at first, but over time, you start noticing a pattern, small manipulations, subtle criticisms, and the constant feeling of walking on eggshells around them. You might have experienced this before. A boss who always finds fault in your work but never acknowledges your efforts. A friend who constantly undermines your confidence under the pretense of just being honest. A family member who drains you emotionally, making every interaction feel like a battle. These people don't always yell or cause chaos outright. Sometimes their toxicity is quieter, more calculated, and that's what makes them dangerous. Smart minds recognize these patterns early. They don't let emotions cloud their judgment. They stay aware, observing behaviors instead of just reacting to words. They understand that toxic people are often battling their own inner demons, using others as an outlet for their insecurities. And because of this, they don't take the bait. They don't argue for the sake of proving a point. Instead, they choose their battles carefully, knowing when silence speaks louder than words. But this isn't always easy. Walking away from a toxic person, especially when they are someone close, can feel like a test of strength. The guilt, the self-doubt, the constant second-guessing, these are the emotions that make it hard to break free. And this is exactly where many people get stuck. They don't realize that the real challenge isn't dealing with toxic people, it's learning to free themselves from their influence. The real struggle begins when you start pulling away. Toxic people don't like losing control, and the moment they sense you distancing yourself, they will try to pull you back in. Sometimes it's through guilt, reminding you of all the times they were there for you, twisting past events to make you question your own judgment. Other times, they switch tactics, suddenly acting kind and supportive, making you believe things might finally change. It's a cycle, one designed to keep you trapped, always second-guessing, always stuck in their web. This is where most people falter. They start to wonder, am I overreacting? Maybe. They didn't mean it that way, what if I'm the problem? These doubts are exactly what toxic people rely on. They don't need to physically trap you. If they can control your mind, they've already won. And this is why smart minds don't just walk away, they do it with complete certainty. They see through the manipulation, the guilt-tripping, the sudden bursts of kindness meant to pull them back in. They remind themselves that change isn't words, it's consistent action. And if someone's actions don't align with their words, they know it's just another trick. But what happens when walking away isn't an option? When the toxic person is a boss, a coworker, or a family member you can't easily cut ties with, this is where emotional boundaries become crucial. Smart minds understand that not every battle is worth fighting. Instead of trying to change the toxic person, they change their own approach. They learn to detach emotionally, refusing to react the way the other person expects. They stop justifying themselves. They stop engaging in pointless arguments. They take back control, slowly, carefully, but with undeniable strength. Yet, even with this awareness, the hardest part is yet to come. Because the moment you start setting boundaries, toxic people don't just give up. They push harder, testing your limits. And this is where most people either break or transform. The moment you start enforcing boundaries, everything changes. Toxic people hate losing control, and when they realize their usual tactics no longer work, they become desperate. Some lash out, trying to provoke a reaction, pushing buttons they know will trigger you. Others turn to playing the victim, spinning stories to make you look like the bad one. They'll say you've changed, that you've become cold, selfish, even ungrateful. And this is where the real test begins. Doubt starts creeping in. The pressure builds. People around you might not understand what you're going through. Some may even take the toxic person's side, convinced by their charm or manipulative words. You may feel isolated, questioning if standing your ground is even worth it. But smart minds know this is part of the process. They don't let fear dictate their actions. They remind themselves why they started, why they made the choice to reclaim their peace. But just when you think you've gained control, the toxic person makes one final move. Maybe it's an emotional outburst, a dramatic confrontation meant to break your resolve. Maybe it's a subtle but calculated act of sabotage designed to pull you back into their chaos. They will use everything they can, your kindness, your past, even your own words, against you. This is the moment where many people crack, where they feel the overwhelming urge to explain themselves, to prove their point just one last time. Maybe they disappear for a while, creating a false sense of peace. It feels like the storm has passed, like you can finally breathe again. But then, without warning, they return, stronger, more determined, and more unpredictable than ever. At first, it's subtle. A casual message, a seemingly innocent comment from a mutual friend, a situation that forces you to interact again. They test the waters, looking for any sign of weakness. If you react, even slightly, they know they still have a grip on you. And if you don't, they escalate. Suddenly, you're hearing rumors, twisted versions of the truth spreading through your social circles or workplace. People you trusted start acting differently, influenced by the toxic person's manipulation. It's not just about you anymore. It's about your reputation, your relationships, your stability. This is the part that no one warns you about. Walking away was supposed to be the hardest step, but now, it feels like the real battle is only just beginning. Every move you make is being watched, analyzed, twisted against you. The toxic person isn't just fighting to pull you back in. They're trying to make sure you regret ever leaving. And for a brief moment, you wonder if they're succeeding. The pressure is immense, the stress exhausting. A part of you wants to fight back, to set the record straight. But deep down, you know, engaging on their terms means stepping right back into their trap. Now, the stakes are higher than ever. You thought you were done with them, but they aren't done with you. And the question remains, how do you win a battle when the other person refuses to let it end? And then, in the middle of all the chaos, something shifts. You realize that the toxic person isn't winning. They're just louder. Their attempts to control, manipulate, and twist the truth are desperate moves, not signs of strength. They want you to react, to fight back, to get caught up in their web again. But this time, you don't take the bait. You don't argue. You don't defend yourself to people who already believe their version of the story. You simply stop playing the game. At first, it feels unnatural. Every instinct tells you to fix the damage, to explain, to set the record straight. But then something unexpected happens. The more you pull away, the more that influence begins to fade. The people who were once swayed by their words start noticing the inconsistencies. The toxic person, frustrated by your silence, grows reckless. Their actions become more obvious, their manipulations less effective. And slowly, the power they once held begins to crumble, not because you fought them, but because you refused to give them what they wanted. Then comes the final twist. The toxic person, in one last attempt to regain control, does something drastic. Maybe they try to apologize, spinning a story about how they've changed. Maybe they try to turn others against you one last time. But by now, it doesn't matter. You've already won, not by proving them wrong, but by proving to yourself that you never needed their validation in the first place. The battle wasn't about them, it was about you. About learning to protect your energy, to walk away without guilt, to understand that not every fight is yours to win. And in that moment, you realize the most powerful response wasn't anger or revenge, it was simply letting go. As time passes, you start to notice something incredible. Without the weight of that toxic person dragging you down, life begins to feel lighter. You think more clearly. You focus on things that truly matter, your goals, your happiness, the people who genuinely support you. The constant stress that once consumed your thoughts fades, replaced by a sense of peace you hadn't realized was possible. It's not that challenges disappear overnight, but the difference is now you're in control. The toxic person may still exist in the background, trying to get your attention in small ways, but their presence no longer affects you the way it once did. You no longer flinch when their name comes up, no longer feel the need to defend yourself when someone brings up the past. They lost their power over you the moment you stopped giving it to them. And with that realization, you feel something even more powerful: freedom. But the real victory isn't just in walking away, it's in the lessons you've learned. You now recognize the signs of manipulation, the subtle red flags you once ignored. You've grown stronger, more aware, and more selective about the energy you allow in your life. Toxic people may still cross your path, but they will never again hold space in your mind or heart. And so, as you move forward, you carry this truth with you. Smart minds don't waste time fighting battles that can't be won. They don't seek revenge, and they don't wait for apologies that will never come. They choose peace over chaos, growth over drama, and most importantly, they choose themselves. Because in the end, the greatest power you have is not in proving someone wrong, it's in proving to yourself that you deserve better.